All right, Bubby started Montessori school and he's doing half days this week. So I haven't really figured out my plan for like the in-between time. And I feel kind of like useless. Like my brain feels useless for the in-between time because it's not long enough by the time I get home to actually do anything productive. So, and this was kind of like unexpected. He was supposed to do full days. So, sorry, this Invisalign and the lisp, it's like, when is this going to be over? Hello, good morning. So I thought I'd go live because like, we can just chat. We can just talk about things. Hi, Brennan. Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. How's your husband doing with his hip replacement? I saw that he was like walking about. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know you could just get up and walk out of the hospital after getting your hip replaced. What should we talk about? I had an idea, and now that I'm here, I'm distracted by having to look at my own face. So, I've been doing these like longer, like 10-minute videos over on TikTok. If you guys don't follow me over there, I think my name is the exact same. Elizabeth.a.clark.ms. And they're very like informational 10-minute videos, like about trauma, how it's stored in the body, how that works. Brennan says wild, but he's doing great. Thanks for asking. Good. So maybe I should just do that here too. Just do that live. Let me know if there's like a particular topic or question that you want me to talk about, and I'm just gonna riff on some things. So I've said this before, but I don't know if I've ever said it in a live. There's a lot of like watering down, and I think like just confusing certain things when it comes to like translating what's actually in the research to like how we talk about emotions being stored in the body and trauma, because they're kind of two, like trauma is one thing, emotions stored in the body is one thing, and memories are another thing. So if you guys don't know, my background is research. By and large, it's research. I'm a former clinical nutritionist and former diagnostics, research and development lab director, and published biomedical researcher. So I just want to see the research, like I'm not a show me the research kind of person because I've seen firsthand how flawed it is and how incentivized researchers are to violate, ethics in research, in academia and in industry. So I'm not like a show me the research person from like I need the research to tell me what to believe is true, but I know how to read the research. So I want to see what's been done and assess it for myself and then connect my own dots. So I'm huge on thought leadership. Like that is kind of like my whole thing is like, I want to help you with your thought leadership. I develop my own thought leadership very intentionally. It's just kind of my zone of genius. And part of that is going in to read the research, as much of it as I can at one time. So I just have like documents on documents of different links to different research studies, different, that's what I'm looking for, different summaries. And what the research says about trauma is kind of like, it's actually kind of disparate. And so this is another limitation of like the show me the research people who need to like see it in the research to believe it. Because when it comes to something like trauma, you have researchers who are more on like the clinical side of things, and they're looking at it from like an application lens. Like how are people responding with trauma? What is trauma actually like causing in these people's lives? And what are the things that they can do, that we can do to change, how they're responding to trauma. And that's kind of like the watered down version. I don't know any better way to say that. It's just like the language in it is not very technical, but it is very label oriented, like somatics and PTSD and like this type of thing. Like that's cool, but it is more of like a clinical view of it. And there's just it's not really something that you can develop your thought leadership from, because there's no like mechanistic aspect of it in a lot of the research. Now, sometimes there is like some mechanistic stuff related to like neurotransmitters and, different pathways within the body, like the reticular activating system. And like that stuff can be really helpful, but there's a layer underneath that the conversation kind of misses. And that's the layer that I'm interested in, because if you're trying to like innovate on ways to actually get people out of their trauma and get them making decisions that are aligned with what they really want in life, because that's what trauma does. It causes you to make decisions that are unaligned with your goals, and you don't really realize it's happening. So if you're trying to like innovate how we're going to solve this issue, you have to go a level deeper and actually look at the research on memories and how memories can be manipulated, because healing trauma is actually just replacing the memory. It's just you have to find it, and you have to find a lot of specifics about it, but you have to find the memory, and you have to identify what you were actually feeling during that memory. And because that's what makes it trauma, right? There's an emotion, a discordant emotion coupled with a memory. And then the third piece to making it trauma is that you didn't get to experience that emotion in your body when it happened. You had to suppress it, or you intentionally intellectualized it because, in our older years, that's what we tend to do. But I guess there's also really a fourth piece, which is your nervous system has to be in a developmentally vulnerable state when you experience a memory with a discordant emotion that you don't allow your body to feel, or feel like you can't, it's not safe to feel it in your body at the time. It gets stuck when those four things are present, basically. So a lot of trauma really is childhood trauma, just because that's how the nervous system works. But you can certainly have trauma at any point in your life. And what you're actually doing when you're healing it, when you're truly healing it, not like anything surface level, but when you're truly healing it, you're feeling that emotion again, which again requires you to identify the memory, a lot of specifics about the memory, and identify the emotion, feel the emotion, like feel it in your body, like cry and have this like very cathartic kind of release, and then replace it with a better emotion. You don't really replace the memory necessarily, but you replace your subjective experience of the memory. So you get to go in and actually experience it like you should have the first time. And it's not unpleasant. I haven't found it to be unpleasant. I found it to only be cathartic. You re-experience it, and then you add something pleasant to it, which is kind of the hero's journey, going back and rewriting it with you as the hero of that, experience. And you can also, Bridget, our community manager, one of my colleagues, she'll go back and like have conversations like in her, in her mind with like her younger self, like the person who is experiencing this, and kind of be that supportive, kind of like almost reparenting energy for herself. And I've tried this too. Recently, I had this really long session. So what I teach, what I've developed is mirror magic, Mirror Magic. I'm from the South, so it sounds like I'm saying like mirror, like M-E-R-E. But it's basically how you do this. It's a step-by-step of how you do this. It's different than what I teach in From Block to Breakthrough and Release Stuck Trauma because those two have a different outcome and they focus on a different way that trauma gets trapped in the body. They're all valid. They're all really good. Those two are just more like foundational things, but not basic. And as far as I know, no one else is teaching them in the way that I'm teaching them or at all. But Mirror Magic is like, this is how you're going to do a session for releasing trauma. You unlock the subconscious, you go in, you're able to find the exact memory. We use muscle testing to do this. You find the exact memory, you find details of it that you wouldn't be able to figure out without unlocking the subconscious. You figure out what it's blocking you from, like what limiting belief is attached to it or came from it. And you find the emotion, you relive it, you have the cathartic, like cry fest, and then you rewrite it, and then you kind of seal it all up with a method that we use for kind of augmenting the interstitia and the fascia to like just imprint, like deeply, permanently imprint this new version of the memory into your system. But the last session I was on some herbs that like really kicked it up a notch. It was just like all night cry fest, and it just felt so good. Like if you're a highly sensitive, high achieving woman, like you may not be able to just cry naturally, like maybe you've seen like in the movies where like a woman gets pulled over for speeding and she's like crying and the officer's like, oh my gosh, it's okay, here's a warning. I could never like before Mirror Magic, before all the trauma work that I've done, I could never let somebody see me cry in person. But this past summer, like I got pretty good at it. I mean, I would say like it kind of depends on like who I'm around, but it feels good to cry. So the last session I had, just all night cry fest, and it was so good. And there were so many different like points in my life that I revisited that were attached to this one limiting belief, this one thing that I was being blocked from. And honestly, like I don't even remember exact specifics on what that thing was, but I will say there's a very clear before and after, like very clear before and after. And I revisited myself to kind of end the session. I revisited myself and all these like points in my timeline, and just had like a sentence, like a word of advice on those reels that are like, I had lunch with my younger self and this is what I said, or this is what she said. It was kind of like that, honestly. It's kind of that vibe, but like very deep. And you don't get this level of breakthrough without understanding how memories are stored in the body and how emotions are stored in the body and how they're two separate things and how you can access both of those things and access them together, access them separately. And that's really in like the mechanistic research of it all, like you're not going to find it by searching for trauma research. You're going to find it by searching for memory research. So memories are stored in your DNA in the form of light. And emotions are more so stored in your tissues, but they're not actually stored in your tissues. They more so inform the structure of those tissues. So, this is how people have, and this is probably going to like ruffle some feathers, but from my experience, the root cause of health issues is by and large emotional trauma. Trauma that happened in utero, trauma that happened, in your family lineage that got passed down to you. This is how like genetic things happen, genetic maladies happen. This is how you can be born with some sort of like defect. So those emotions, the discordant emotions, like fear, anger, loneliness, those types of emotions, not like joy. I mean, all emotions, but discordant emotions structure your tissues during development, during normal tissue regeneration, which just depending on the part of the body happens on a daily basis. And then also through the tissue regeneration that happens when you're healing from something. You know, when you have like scar tissue or damaged tissue and your body's trying to turn over new cells, your emotions you're experiencing at that time tell those tissues how to structure themselves, basically. And minor changes in those structures of your tissues cause electrical interference within the nervous system. So your memories are stored in the form of light in DNA. And organs that have higher concentrations of DNA tend to be the ones that are the most affected by emotional trauma. So the DNA that is, you know, in your heart is DNA that is storing memories that are more likely to have been experienced in the context of joy, having joy or lacking joy. The heart is about joy. And there's some crossover into like different organs and emotions depending on like what element they're related to. So the heart can actually have an affinity for storing 4 different organs, including the heart, and those different emotions. So that's like 40 different emotions that can be a part of the heart, that can get stored in the heart. So when you look at the physical issues, like the physical problems that can affect the heart, these are problems that you're only susceptible to if you have these memories, yours or someone else's, doesn't really matter. These memories stored in your heart because they were experienced alongside unlived joy, or like the things that are, you know, in the other emotions. And I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I think acute grief, and humiliation. And I can't remember the emotional heart off the top of my head. Actually, if you comment 153, it's 152. I'll send you the emotion list for free. It's all of the emotions. And if you've commented before and the automation was being wonky, just comment again because it's fixed now. So 152 will get you the entire list of emotions, and you can see this. But issues that have to do with the heart, mercury toxicity, a lot of mercury is found in the heart, different parasites, but mostly smaller ones. You know how like dogs get heartworms? Well, humans do too. They're just typically like cellular, like Lyme or, you know, something like that. That can be stored in the heart. I'm trying to think. Issues related to teeth often cause arrhythmias and connective tissue issues in the heart. And this is kind of like thank you, Brennan. Humiliation, unloved joy, and loneliness are kind of like the constellation of emotions. There's one more that's the emotional heart too, but I can't think of that one off the top of my head. And then there's a list of like 7 to 10 more emotions under each of those, but those are like the kind of like headliner emotions that can be stored in the heart. So my own personal story is relatable to so many people, so many women that follow me, because it is kind of synonymous with this like highly acute grief. Thank you. Okay. So I got one of them right. I got one right. My story is kind of the story of like the highly sensitive high achiever, the black sheep of the family, the sort of lone wolf. Like one time my mom said to me, like, you know, your brothers will tell us when they're like, you know, considering making a decision, and we can kind of like help them talk through it. But you don't do that. I was like, oh yeah, I can't, like, I would never, like, this is like kind of lone wolf, like, but the female version of it, you know? And so much of my trauma that's been inherited was inherited, and so much of the trauma that repeated through themes, you know, throughout my life has been related to teeth and the heart and the connection between the two. And I find that the women who have so much success, like outward success, by using my mirror magic method, are women who have that same sort of constellation, especially like related to the heart, because the unlived joy thing, and oh my gosh, just over here, like, but like the other thing about highly sensitive, high achieving women is that like vulnerability makes us break out in hives. Like, I'm allergic to my emotions, and that's why it takes something like mirror magic for me to access them, because my physical body is like detoxing the second I'm vulnerable. And that's how like chronic health issues snowball, you know? It's like this suppressing your emotions because you were raised believing that like big girls don't cry. And again, like that's not objectively like a very traumatic thing, right? Like this belief that you're not allowed to cry is not like objectively traumatic, but if you're not allowed to feel an emotion and it's happening during a developmentally vulnerable time in your life, which is childhood, like that's the definition of how you're going to have trauma stuck in the body. But I was born without 4 adult teeth to come in later. So I had all my baby teeth, but 4 of them didn't have adult teeth to come in later. So this is inherited kind of unlived joy. And when you start pulling on this thread and seeing where this is all connected, and I the majority of the trauma that I was healing for the past 2 years has been things that are stuck in my heart with unlived joy. If you start to pull on this thread, it'll oftentimes come from the providers in your family lineage. So depending on like what that situation was. For me, due to tragedy, my paternal grandmother had to be the provider. But then in my family of origin, like where, you know, how I grew up, my dad, for, you know, periods of time was the provider, and has always been sort of like the primary provider, even though my mom had a career and worked. So the unlived joy kind of like constellation of, you know, memories and events is oftentimes like coming from the provider thread in your family. And this spills over into everything, how you can enjoy motherhood or find motherhood very stressful. And it spills over into relationships and having a hard time, you know, being vulnerable with people, taking a long time to get to trust people, sometimes never really feeling like you trust people. Like that all is that constellation of emotions in the fire, you know, element top of the emotion list. And again, if you comment 152, you'll get the whole list and you can see what resonates. But some people, I ask people after they get the emotion list, like, hey, what'd you think about it? Everyone loves it. Like I maybe had like one person, have criticism about it. And it was just like, you know, I don't understand what to do with it. So it's funny to me because there are some people who look at it and as they're reading it have an emotional response or have a physical response in their body. Like, oh my gosh, unlived joy in the heart. Like my whole life makes sense all of a sudden, you know? And then there are some people who look at it and they read the whole thing and they're like, okay, but what do I do with it? Like, this is meaningless. This is just a list of words. And it comes down to like, can you be in touch with that emotional side of your body just day to day? You know, like, is this hard for you? If it's hard for you, you do need something like mirror magic to access these emotions because you have like hidden them so far down that they are meaningless to you. The words are meaningless to you. You don't have a feeling to connect to those words. So all of the methods I teach help you get there. They help you get to a place where you can feel it, and you can't process it unless you can feel it. So they help you feel it, they help you process it. There's kind of entry level, like from block to breakthrough is you don't have to muscle test. You don't have to know anything about anything. It's a 2-minute method. It's very foundational, but it's anything but basic. Like there's no one else out here on the internet, at least, that's going to teach you how to do these things. I developed them through a research and development process because that's my background. Part of that research was learning with clinicians who they're not going to teach it to you on Instagram. They're going to do it in a clinical setting. It's very, very different. But also going in and reading the research and understanding the different possibilities for how you can do this and what might be effective. And from block to breakthrough, I list out those different possibilities in the research. So I went into a rabbit hole on how to get this effect from different things, how to get this like life-changing breakthrough about, how your emotional trauma is causing you to make decisions that are out of alignment with your goals. And that's like sort of nebulous and hard to wrap your head around. But just think about a time when you're like, yeah, I kind of self-sabotaged myself. That's trauma. Okay. And the antidote to trauma is the breakthrough. And you get the breakthrough by re-experiencing or for the first time experiencing the emotions that you couldn't at the time of the lived experience. And then replacing that experience with a different perspective. And that's it. You get the breakthrough through perspective. Trauma is perception. That's why you can tell people things and they're like, that doesn't sound that bad. Or you can tell people things and they're like, that's terrible, but like your perception of it is different. Trauma is perception. It hinges on the concept of perception. Whereas in order to get the breakthrough that you need to make decisions that are actually aligned with your goals, aka reach your goals, you have to have perspective. Trauma's perception, breakthroughs is their perspective. So I forgot where I was going with that, but there's a resonance to having those breakthroughs, to the things that will give you those breakthroughs. And I found them all in the research. I muscle tested them. I literally found direct resonance between something tangible, like these herbs that we take. I say we, but it's like the colleagues and students and clients that I've trained and that I see one-on-one. These herbs that we take and other options, because the herbs aren't very accessible. They're esoteric herbs. They come from a monastery. It's kind of like an if you know situation. Only practitioners can get their hands on them. You can't order them online. So I got to thinking, how do we do this? How do we bring this to everybody, without just like completely draining ourselves of the will to live by constantly doing, these one-on-ones to get people the right herbs. So I took the ones that are specifically related to like this emotional interference. There's about 10 of them. And I muscle tested direct resonance to other methodologies that have been shown in the research to fix emotional interference in the nervous system. And I list all of those out in detail and then explain them in From Block to Breakthrough. And then I give you a way to do it on your own body that it's literally less than 2 minutes. It only takes 2 minutes. You basically turn your body into a sound healing instrument, because one of the resonances for these herbs is a sound frequency pulsed at a certain pulse frequency. And then it led me down this rabbit hole of like, well, how do we create a device that can do this with light, that can be targeted to specific parts of the body? Because when you're targeting specific parts of the body, you want to look at, maybe specific ganglia, with your cranial nerves, or specific organs or parts of the body that are prone to chronic infection, like your sinuses and your tonsils, detox organs that are going to have acute and chronic overload, like your kidneys, your liver, the heart, the teeth, like all these places that are like kind of hot spots for the trauma and the emotions to accumulate. And there's nothing that exists on the market that can do this. But I asked ChatGPT to give me like a plan on how to manufacture something like that. And it actually like spit out some real quality stuff in research mode. So stay tuned. If you've been seeing me do reels where I have this flashing like strobe light, this is part of this thread of consciousness. Was I realized I had this wand light in my closet from like 7 years ago, and that the strobe appeared to be 40 hertz, which is one of the pulse frequencies that has been shown in the research to help with emotional interference. However, the light frequencies would be more like near infrared light frequencies, different ones at different pulse rates. You would have to muscle test it to find the right one for you. But I found this light and it actually is working. But the light this particular wand, I think, is going to be hard to bring to you guys at scale. I'm working on it, but it's not really going anywhere. And honestly, I don't know how to explain how this light works because it's more of like a quantum imprinted light. So hopefully I'll get to develop a more like pin sort of laser wand that's near infrared light, that can be changed from like 810 to 830 to 850 nanometers, because those are the light frequencies that have resonance for clearing emotional interference, and that can pulse at either 10 hertz or 40 hertz, because those are the pulse frequencies that have resonance, and it's supported in the research. So if you want more of a background on this, I think you comment breakthrough to get from block to breakthrough. And actually I just bundled it with a really good deal on release stuck trauma. So if your primary issue with emotional interference is something more like mental and emotional, like you are procrastinating a lot lately, or you have a tendency to procrastinate in general, or you feel kind of stalled out, uninspired, creative block, like you're not really sure what the next right move is. You feel a little bit overwhelmed with all the information that, you can access on what to do, From block to breakthrough is the method that will give you that result. It will get you the breakthrough that you need for your business, life, career, anything creative, anything thought leadership, anything identity related. However, if your biggest issue right now with emotional interference is chronic health symptoms, like if you have some chronic health symptom like migraines or fatigue, skin issues, like those kinds of things that have been going on for years at a time, and like nothing actually fully works, but you've kind of tried everything, then the method that's going to help you with that is release stuck trauma. They're night and day. They're very different methods because they have very different results, but I just added release stuck trauma to the checkout, and you can get it for a crazy bundle deal right now. And I think I'm only going to do that for the first 10 people who get that bundle. So if you comment breakthrough, you can go to the checkout and get that whole bundle. And again, like there's nowhere else to learn this stuff. Like that's why I created it. I wanted to take everything that I could teach you guys and find the most impactful things. And this is it. This is it. Everything that I'm teaching you, this is like the only place that you're going to learn it. And it's the most impactful thing you can do. The stuff we teach in release stuck trauma is what we do with every single client in my private practice on the first call. We will do these one-on-one, one-off calls. We don't really open our schedule right now. We're trying to get our back end set up so that we can put more practitioners into the fold. because my schedule is just not really conducive to these like one-off, one-on-one appointments. They're like very energetically consuming, especially considering everybody's root cause for the past like year has been trauma. Like, we don't even need to go any further on the first call. Like, you got to fix the trauma piece of it first, or nothing you do is going to work. So that's kind of how I ended up here. I started my private practice around 2017, and I was only working with women who had chronic mystery illness. We could get them big improvements, but symptoms would creep back up. Nothing would really stick for longer than 6 months to a year. And I got into medical astrology and immediately saw that everybody's root cause was actually trauma, and that was the thing that makes you susceptible to physical illness. So you can get rid of your parasites, you can get rid of your heavy metals, you can get rid of your chronic infections, get rid of your mold. But if you don't fix the emotional interference that's making you susceptible to getting ill from those things, you're always going to be sensitive and you're always going to get sick again from these things. And that's the only way that I have gone so many years without identifying with chronic health issues. Like, I have a reel somewhere on my story. You can see I was a hot mess, like 30 pounds overweight, which is a lot for me. Tired every single day by 3 p.m., like falling asleep at my desk. Brendan says, amen. This stuff is a big deal. Like, people don't realize it because it's so nebulous. And here's the thing, like, even when I realized it, I didn't know what to do about it. I was like, this is great. I'm just going to go tell everybody that their root cause is trauma and then have no solution. I have nothing to offer you. Your root cause is trauma. Have fun with that, you know? So I went down this rabbit hole, like, well, what do you do about it? And I found some like really cool things along the way that like really do something, you know, but it wasn't until I found this stuff that I teach now, in From Block to Breakthrough, Release Stuck Trauma, Mirror Magic. Mirror Magic is more of a method than a course now. I actually closed the course and we're opening a Mirror Magic membership in like, what's today? In like 4 days, I think we're going to actually open applications for the membership, because it's a method. It's not like a course, you know, like everybody's outcome is different. Obscure to Iconic teaches the Mirror Magic method in the context of basically rewiring your nervous system to be able to handle visibility. And it also gives you visibility because of that. It's like waving a magic wand. Like, I want to be visible, you know, bippity boppity boo. And then I'll be your fairy godmother to heal your visibility wounds. But it's all self-paced. You're going to do it yourself, actually. I'm just going to show you how. Just watching the demo there's actually 2 demos in there. Just watching me heal my visibility wounds actually heals part of yours. And that's kind of also part of the magic of this, is like you kind of have this like hive mind collective consciousness effect with your mirror neurons, basically. So I don't have a keyword for the Mirror Magic membership because we're still getting the back end sorted out. It's going to replace the Deeply Healed membership. So it's going to include only my courses that have to do with trauma. So it won't include self-healed nervous system. That has been officially retired. And you're going to get pretty much everything else, as well as whatever I release during the time that you're a part of it. And Genius Intuition will be coming to you within the next, 2 to 3 months. And your outcome is going to be different based on what you want to achieve and like where you're at. But this is primarily for emotional and mental outcomes, not physical outcomes. Release Stuck Trauma is the only method that I'm going to retain in the membership that has a physical health outcome, because it's so pivotal and we don't have we don't have a course to take its place over on Discernment Framework yet. Discernment Framework is still going to be health related, and it's our practitioner training brand. But right now, our only course over there is on food sensitivities. And you can follow us at discernment.framework and check that out. But that's it. That's basically what I have to say. So your keywords, 152 will get you the emotion list. Breakthrough will get you the bundle deal from block to breakthrough, but you have to scroll to the bottom and check the box to make sure that you're adding release stuck trauma to it. You can do both together. They're different. They're going to give you different things. And release stuck trauma does require muscle testing. However, if you're someone who feels like you don't have a very notable sway, or you feel like your muscle testing is inaccurate, release stuck trauma will take you through everything you need to know to be able to access your sway accurately. If you truly do not have a sway, or if you have some sort of spiritual stickiness with muscle testing, From Block to Breakthrough doesn't use muscle testing at all. There's sort of an advanced practice aspect to it. So if you want to use muscle testing, you can, and I explain how, but you don't have to. You don't have to. And if you have some sort of spiritual stickiness with muscle testing, probably my courses and my methods aren't going to be a good fit anyway, because you're just not how do I say this? You're not at the right degree of openness for them to be effective. Does that make sense? You have to be at a certain openness with what you're willing to observe with yourself. And, some of these things can cause a little dark night of the soul, and you have to be open to experiencing that, and you have to have faith in yourself and your own body and your own mental fortitude, that this is okay. It is okay to experience the emotions that you never were allowed to, or you didn't allow yourself to experience. That's kind of the core part of this, is that you have to trust yourself to experience those emotions. And if you're not there, then a one-on-one kind of practitioner setting, something that we wouldn't do, would be better. Start with therapy, or maybe family constellations, but family constellations is pretty potent, honestly. So maybe just regular therapy and in journaling would be a better place to start if you don't have that openness and self-trust and self-efficacy to experience a dark night of the soul, basically. But I know my people, and I know you guys are give me the dark night of the soul. Just stick it into my veins directly. Because if you've been through some of those things, you know that is where the breakthrough happens. And if you're stuck and you're stalled out and you're overthinking and there's too many options, you need a breakthrough. You need something massive to come in and shake things up. And that's what this stuff does. Even the most basic stuff I teach is very powerful. But it does require a little bit of self-trust. So that's it. You guys always feel free to reach out in the DMs or in the comments. I see them, I check them. My DMs are kind of a riptide, so whether or not I see them there, it could be Veronica, or it could be that you accidentally trigger the bot. Now I never see that I have a message. But you can always just keep trying. And if you get the bot responding to you and you need the bot to leave the chat, all you have to reply is stop. S-T-O-P. And the bot will leave the chat. So you can always access me that way. Reply stop and then send me a message, and then I'll actually see that I have a message. But if the bot is getting triggered over and over again, that's how I miss the messages. And I know it's super annoying, but it's just one of the limitations of, the tech that we have to work with. So I'm going to get ready to drive back to Montessori school and pick up my little guy. And if anybody has like some potty training tips or Montessori school facts or tidbits of information, like please feel free to DM me. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm trying my best. Okay, so love y'all, mean it.